Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Milestone نقطة تحول. If you open up the dictionary and you see superhero, super mom, this is the person that you will find. You will find Rana Akkad. Who is Rana Akkad?
It's very simple. I always introduce myself as the mom. I'm known as the mom. Even when people ask to meet me, they're like, is the mom here? So I guess Rana Akkad is a mother of three beautiful boys.
I want to start with the first milestone, Rana. Jad, your middle son being diagnosed with autism. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So that was almost 12 years ago. I mean, I'm originally Syrian, and our community be like, he got the evil eye, or he's raised by the nanny, and this is why he regressed. And there are all these different stigmas or labels, not to admit that there's something wrong with your child. That was my first milestone. That was my first struggle. In my case, unfortunately, I was one of the unfortunate parents that my son regressed. As I always say, I think it would have been easier to me if he was born this way, maybe for guilt purposes, because once you're gifted from God a perfect, healthy child, and then after 2 years, he starts losing speech or milestones or engagement, as a mother, the first person to blame is yourself. Like, what did I do wrong? What did I miss out? Now, I emphasize a lot on this point because this is 12 years ago. I think from 12 years till now, I did somehow educate myself enough in the field. And I just want to beg every mother that's watching or hearing this today and let her know it's not her fault. Either if he or she are born this way or regress, there is no medical, scientific proof that the mother caused it by any, even by during pregnancy or afterwards, or external stuff. So I want to emphasize on that. Nothing is proven what causes autism, but unfortunately it's still there.
Can I ask you, Rana, what were the signs?
See, the unfortunate thing with autism is that there's no one box fits all. Like, let's say if Down syndrome, the minute the child is born, physically can show, or developmental delay, you can see with the milestones. With autism, it doesn't work the same way because it's such a big spectrum and each kid is different. So you have the type that usually their progress is delayed. So delay in speech, delay in toilet training, delay in certain behaviors or milestones. This is the basic one. And usually these cases do progress tremendously if they're caught early and early intervention is involved. So we always encourage early intervention. We always say there's this window of opportunity, which is usually around 5. If you act before this, you can start as young as 6 months. If you start that early, there's this window of opportunity, you can pull your child back. This isn't the case of your child normally regressing, not developing according to age. The other case, which is only 25% of autistic kids, are the ones that regress. So the child will be, and this is very common in the autism world to say it. So the child will be developing very well until the age of 1.5, 2, talking, walking, engaging, everything's fine. And then something happens at the age 1.5 or 2, and he or she regressed tremendously. Now, this is where the question mark, where people don't know what might have caused it. Some blame it on vaccine. Some blame it, as I told you, being raised with the nanny, or back then, even in the 70s, they used to call it in the US refrigerator mom, which is mom that's not giving enough affection and emotion. A lot of excuses, a lot of reasons, no one knows.
So what happened, Rana, when you went, and I know you took that journey almost like all by yourself, because you took a decision. You went to the US, and I think after that trip, everything changed.
Yeah.
What happened?
It was confirmed that it wasn't me who was going nuts, that my son was autistic. It was confirmed that he will never go back to talking normally. And that was, I guess, the biggest shock for me. Funny enough, going back to autistic kids, he can sing you an entire song for Katy Perry. He loves Katy Perry, and he can sing an entire song. But come and ask him about his name, he wouldn't answer. So
that is so interesting. That's so interesting.
The human brain is fascinating. He had what's called selective mutism, that his vocal cords and everything, he can function, he can talk, but he chooses not to because he doesn't find the need. So this is where I went super depressed. I joke about it and say I went the whole Britney Spears. I shaved my head. I went in a really dark place. We only had blogs over there back then. I started blogging. I started sharing my pain. I started sharing my fears and all this. And you'd be shocked that for such a depressing, sad topic, how many followers I started getting. Half of them anonymous, but it did the job. As long as they were sharing, talking, it was impressive. It was very comforting to know that I wasn't the only one, as selfish as it may sound. And it helped me a lot.
You know, you got a light bulb moment. Absolutely. And you said, you know what, I need to fix things myself now. I need to take things in my own hands as Rana, as always, as you always do. And I'm going to start that school. Tell me, Rana, how did you start? When did you start? How did you start? What were the challenges? How did you overcome them?
So it took me almost 4 years of preparation, licensing, educating. Like I'm a fashion designer. I have nothing to do with this field. So it took me a while to go. I was back and forth with the US. I was seeing sister schools and different schools that we can maybe bring as a franchise, different curriculums. I didn't want it to be only autism because, as I said, there are so many. It's just the lost kids in the gray area. Let me just put it that way. So it might be ADHD, dyslexia, apraxia, because I'm seeing from other families that their kids are not accepted, not only not accepted, not belonging in mainstream, yet realistically, I mean, there's no other choice. Because I go back, and with all due respect, special needs is a huge spectrum. You can have a 16-year-old that maybe is nonverbal or uses external aids like hearing aid or clutches and all that, or you can have a 16-year-old in diapers. So these two should not belong in the same school.
Yeah. It's a big difference. It's a big variation.
This is where it came. So I educated myself. The funding was very difficult. The hardest thing was the licensing, because I would go to Ministry of Education. They'd be like, you cannot open a school that's 100% special needs. That's not under us, that's under social affairs. I'll go to social affairs. They're like, you cannot have curriculum because that's under Ministry of Education. So to become, to create this package that satisfies everyone and go through all the hoops and loops, this is what takes me back to Mama Bear. The only reason I think such an example as ours does not exist out there is because for a lot of parents, not a lot of people, it's not worth the headache. People that are in it for the money, it doesn't make any money. And 4 years of licensing and approvals, I mean, that by itself, it drains anyone. So yes, it took me 4 years, but at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? If it didn't happen, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? That people are gonna say, oh, poor thing, ran on her depression. She tried, she failed. Let it be. But if it worked, I secured my son's future, and it worked. Okay,
great. So Rana, this segment is about the youth pitching a project for you. Okay. Mariam?
Okay. Hello, my name is Mariam from Morocco. I am the founder of Mental Health School Morocco. Actually, I am advocating for mental health since so long, and it started from personal need, exactly as your story, Rana, that it's so inspiring, actually. So the idea, it came because in Morocco especially, I believe that mental health is a serious problem, and it's a silent one, especially in Morocco. Unfortunately, we have 1 out of 2 Moroccans is mentally ill, and 1 out of 4 is depressed, which is a really alarming statistics and so scary. So this made me and my co-founder think about to speak up more about mental health in our country. So we came up with this idea of Mental Health School Morocco, where we focalize on for making awareness of the importance of mental health. Especially our target is for young people, since they are not only the heaviest demographic component in Morocco, but they are in as you said, Rana, in a phase in their life that is very, very important and sensitive one. So that's why we are targeting, like, especially schools and parents and the kids or the students in general. So what we do is like conferences about mental health, about mental illnesses, to break the stigma, to break like the stereotypes, because this topic is super surrounded with stereotypes, with stigma, unfortunately. So we try to break that down. And as well, we do like workshops in schools, talking about like trying to make the parents and the teachers aware of mental health, more mental illnesses, how you can catch and treat your kids, your students. So yeah, this is it. I guess time is up.
And I'm being very frank. I don't think if it wasn't for my son, I would have been in the mix. But I'm very grateful and thankful for it. I think this is great, Mariam. I would advise is basically, as I was saying before, a lot of people in our community would like to stay anonymous. So I think it's great that you're doing different talks and lectures in schools and other places. My advice would be to do a behind the scene way of connecting with you guys. So maybe email or number, WhatsApp, whatever, and giving them the choice of being anonymous. Do you have such a thing?
Oh yeah, actually we did that before, since we did some in our conferences, like we have our data from people who attended the conference and everything. And in the conference event, for example, if someone have a question to the expert or the panelist, they feel really ashamed to ask or embarrassed to ask in front of everyone out loud. So what we do is like in the check-in to get to the conference, we do like an anonymously kind of questions. They write it down in papers, like privately, and then like we can give it to the experts so they can read it and answer them. So yeah, and even online we do like we have we ask them like privately online in a like Saraha platform or some similar stuff. Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. And my other advice would be is basically from my firsthand experience is that having these people yet respecting their privacy but connecting, because it's very comforting to know that it's not only you out there. So maybe if you can do not physical meetings but maybe virtual meetings for them to talk and discuss, it really helps to learn from others as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we are working on nowadays, especially because we are in this pandemic. Everything is closed, even the schools, and we cannot do conferences. So we are planning for an online kind of similar service.
All this is adding to the depression, by the way, because even healthy people are losing it with this lockdown.
Exactly.
And losing it.
So thank you, Mariam, for being with us, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
What would you tell other parents? How would you console them? How would you, like, can you just give some, I don't even know what to call it. It's not even advice. It's like, what would you tell them?
Through my life, I had points that led me. So the first point, as I told you, is that dad saying, I cannot afford therapy, which got me to think, oh my God, I'm blessed. My second point was when the other family said my child was not accepted in mainstream, let's open mainstream school. With Jad, I got a message from a random person I've never met in my life. I know of, but I don't know. And his message was, he's my age, he's an adult. And he was like, I've been hearing about how strong you are and all what you've achieved in your life and what you did for your son. You seem like a strong person. Please don't do what my mom did to us when my brother passed away. He's like, when my brother passed away, my mom died with him and we lost a brother and a mother. I know you have 2 other kids. Please stay alive for them. So imagine that message from a complete stranger. I think it's what got me snapping out of it. Because I do have another 2 kids, which were also struggling, which were confused, and they lost their brother. So I did see it was selfishness of me crawling back to that hole, which I did tell you I crawled in once when I found out Jad was autistic. And I know how lonely it is. And I know how depressing. And I saw how my family collapsed because we like it or not, the mom is the glue of the house. The dad might be the provider, the mom is the glue. And I did see for a year and a half how my family collapsed. I refused to put them in that position again. So for all those, if they go through such a thing, life has to go on. So think about, if you don't have other kids, your spouse, your parents, because you are still someone's child, and how they're gonna take it. And there's a saying in Arabic, we say, الحي أولى من الميت. Sadly, it's true. I had 2 other kids that I had to be strong for versus my pain
An
and
angel.
the angel.
But versus an angel in the sky, right? Looking down upon all of you.
Absolutely.
What do you think the Arab world countries are lacking when it comes to, this whole COVID-19 experience, if you want?
Maybe awareness and minding their own business. People, can I say that?
Stop meddling, people. Stop meddling.
I think, yes, by all aspects.
Stop judging, in fact. Who would you most like to sit next to on a 10-hour flight, and why? Or, a long flight.
Steve Jobs, if he's still, okay, I can't that one. Let me skip it.
No, but I mean, if you can, if you want. I mean, he's dead, but bless his soul. But
I'll say
why?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
Yes. Why? He's not a follower. I admire no followers. I know he's very much hated right now, but I love people that think out of the box and don't fear the extra step.
Absolutely. If you could live your life again, knowing what you do now, what would you change?
Spend more quality time with my son. Nothing else.
What are your plans for the near future, Rana?
I live day by day. And this is exactly what I said. I am a person that fears tomorrow. And I always said it. So I learned through all my year, I'd rather live day by day. So no plans. If someone 20 years ago would tell me I'm going to be running a school in 20 years, I would have laughed at them. I hated school. I still hate school. My 6-year-old, when he comes and tells me I don't want to go to school, I tell him, I know, I hear you, sweetie. I don't even sugarcoat it. So for me to run a school, I definitely do need to take life day by day.
If you're listening to this and you have a child that is somehow regressing or suffering from one condition or the other, please educate yourself. Rana has shared a lot of information with us and knowledge that really can be followed up. Share with a friend if you know a friend or a neighbor or a family member, but make sure that you are not in denial, that you do not escape or hide from the truth, because the more you hide, the more time you waste, the more time you're actually not giving your child a chance to develop. Early intervention is key, as Rana mentioned. So please, parents, just face the truth. There is nothing to worry about. 1, to the children, stay the way that you are. We love you just the way you are. To the community, be patient, be empathetic, and be a little bit understanding, and take time to react, because you could be in that situation one day, or it could happen to someone that's dear to you. So stay safe, stay empathetic, and stay real. And I'll see you next time in another episode of Milestone, نقطة تحول. Thank you.